Hey guys, welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So I'm in a good mood because I'm on vacation. I've been on vacation actually for, actually by the time you've seen this is the last day. We're talking 9 days. So, but I brought along my books with me so we can talk about what I've read in September. So I read 9 books. I thought it was 10, but it's 9. And I had a good reading month. For the most part, I would say these books are different, but also heavy in terms of the emotional reads and the connection that the stories have with the characters and even our feels for it. So start off with a fun book first, and that is Beverly Jenkins, The Catch a Raven. I did a reading vlog on this because I read this during right before the beginning of the month for July. Not for July. What am I saying? I'm so out of it, guys. I am in my birthday get up, still celebrating. Anyway, this I read Labor Day weekend, and this was I thought was Beverly Jenkins doing what she does best, which is historical romance. And what I love about this is she has these female characters who go against the norm of that time period and what was expected of women back then. And in this you have a woman who comes from a family that's known to steal things, and a man who was not aware of his father's past, who was involved with one of the women. So it's a kind of a generational thing, but in this they have to they were pretty much blackmailed to find the Declaration of Independence, and that was believed to be in a plantation owner in the South, and they have to go get it. I enjoy this. I love the romance with the characters, how it went through. It was just so sexy, but it was also gives you historical content because apparently over the years, even recently, there was a copy found. So there was always that idea of which one was the original. There are several copies that was done then, but which one is the original? And that just sparks the conversation. So it was also some other things in there, characters that she based the stories on, real characters that she based the story on, that I thought their story was fascinating and make you want to even look into it more, which I think is one of her thing. Where she does historical fiction, she used facts to create characters that makes you want to, after you're done, Google and find more information about certain characters. So enjoy this. Then I read a nonfiction, and that is A Memoir of an Island Girl. This is a short story. I love memoirs that are not so much of a storytelling but more of a journal, and in this it felt like journal entries. It felt like characters, well, this real person in this. This is a two generation. The author, this is her grandmother and her mother story, and you get to the end where the author, how she became here. What I liked is it talks about Trinidad, different areas of Trinidad I've never heard of. Mainly know of the capital, so there's different areas of Trinidad that you learn of in this. You also learn of the struggles of early immigrants from the island to America, and certain kind of business arrangement, mostly domestic people. You also see the struggle of those who come here and the expectation they have of their children, the pressure they put because of what they left behind and what they want their children to do, and when their children don't live up to that expectation, the kind of hurt and the things that they do are on sometimes very harsh, and you feel for that. You feel for both, because you understand in this the grandmother, she what she had to endure. She had 5 kids and wasn't getting any help, was struggling to feed, often goes without food, and then when she gets the opportunity to come here and she was able to bring her child here, then she has to cope with the whole idea of I want you to do this, that, and when that child doesn't do that, and the heartbreak that it has, and the in essence what she did to cause her daughter to live homeless and all this stuff. There's a lot of that in this, so it was heartbreaking. But I would say I felt I wanted more. There's that point where she is now having the third generation, which is the author. I wanted to know more about the breakthrough of how she got to a certain point of being able to stand. They touch brief on it, but there's just some more I wanted, and I felt like I wanted more. That's the best way to put it. And I did say that to the author, that I wanted more. Wish I understood why more wasn't given, because of the whole idea. This is Caribbean. A lot of our Caribbean family, our mothers, our grandmothers, still hold on to secrets that they don't want to ever share. And I have that. There's things that I want to know, and I still nudge my mother every opportunity I can get, and I still have not been able to get certain answer to certain questions that I have. I don't know why they feel like they're just going to go to the grave with this, when I feel like it's a part of their history, no matter how bad or heartbreaking that the situation might have been. I think as a generation we should share those stories. But that's another topic. But for this, it is short, and again, it reads like a diary, journal entry. So I recommend this. Then the Booker, the Booker, Trevor Walker. I did a review on this. I'm gonna link it. I highly recommend you do that, because there's not much I could say, but this was just not it for me. It didn't. I wasn't. It just didn't do it for me. But it's like a fantasy, but it's weird. It's basically a boy who meets Trickle Walker, and he wanted something in exchange for something. And this boy has like this sight that he can foresee things that other creatures of being can see. And it has those metaphors and things in it that just went over my head. I was just kind of like, and then I wasn't, it just didn't do it for me. That's the best way I can put it. I'll leave a review, and y'all could have your opinion. I don't know who loved this book. I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me why they love this book, and no one has replied yet. But yeah, so sorry if you hear the noise in the background. You see where I'm at, bam. So Going to Meet the Man. It is a short story collection by James Baldwin, and it's absolutely gut-wrenching book. And the last story is actually titled Going to Meet the Man. If you guys haven't known yet, because I said it with my whole chest, I can actually say it with my whole chest, James Baldwin is my favorite author. I literally got that realization this year, because this is the second book I read this year, but I think I'm on 8 books or something like that. He writes these raw characters that are very flawed, that are experiencing life in the most heaviest form, who are using different ways to cope, who are strive for pleasure in ways as well too, as pleasure is often in his book, sexuality, this racial tension, but pleasure and sexuality often used in a book in terms of the sorrow of wanting to release the anguish that is in that person. But a lot of his book, because of the time period that he was writing in, he often have racial issues in this, and you do get to see and experience a man who has seen it, who have experienced it, who have known those who also have seen and experienced the racial tension, the racial injustice, and the painful verification of what happens. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Now, this is one of his most deep, gut-wrenching, family, religion, my brother's keeper. One of the ones that you kind of read it slow. Like, I took a while to read this because it was such a heavy and sometimes thought-provoking moment where I had to stop and kind of like analyze the story in a way that I can make more sense to me in terms of all the things that was happening to different characters in this. And the last one, like I said, was just, I could see why he used that book to title, that last story to title the book. Overall, this is just, he's a master. If you don't know who Bowles Draper is, I don't know where you've been. Read his books. It's his writing, his process. It's just amazing how gifted this man was, and absolutely love this. Then we are going to talk about these 4 books from the same author. I did a spotlight on her, so again, I'm not going to go through it. But what I would say about Elizabeth Stroud, I read the first book, which she won the Pulitzer Prize for, and this one, Olive Kitteridge, is amazing in terms of a complicated character that she wrote that has all these negative characteristics, but you really are in her mindset that you enjoy her and understand her and get her despite the flaws. And I did a review, so I really want you guys to go check out the reviews or I did on this. This was so good. I enjoyed this. Then you have the 3 books, and the reason why I've read these 3 books because Old William. So Old William, you guys know, is shortlisted on the Booker Prize. So of course I had to start from the beginning. Now I know there's a 4th book, which I will read soon, because I think it's the 4th and final book. And in this one, you get to meet the character that really connects all the books, and that is, my name is Lucy Barton. Now, Lucy is an author, and in the first one you get where she is in the hospital for a procedure that went wrong, and there's just all these medical uncertainties that she's experiencing, and her mom came to visit. Now you are learning about her in terms of how poor they grew up. They grew up in that small town where everybody know everybody's business, but everybody really don't know what really goes on in people's house, but they just assume a lot of things. So being poor, she struggled with that, her identity of what she had, what she didn't, the struggle of her parents who weren't the most emotionally supportive parents. They were rough and very much at times can be abusive. And but at the same time, there is that want and that need for the mother. So when our mother came to visit her, and you can see how emotionally uplifting it was for her, even though her mom wasn't warm. Her mom was not a hugger, kiss her or say I love you, none of that. Her mom was very aggressive and abrasive at times. But you know, regardless of all that, she loved that her mom was there, and loved the time that she was able to spend with her mom. The moments when she knew her mom was lurking around the corner to make sure everything was okay. She knew without her mother even saying it that her mom loved her, and her mom was there for her, you know, when she needed her. So I love that. The second book is when you really learn about the people in the town, and you get to meet also her siblings, her brothers and sister. And you meet in a town where you meet in these different people who she have went to school with, who have maybe worked at the school, who are neighbors, who are somewhere along the line. This is a small town in Illinois, so everybody seemed to know everybody. But then she released her memoir, and then people really got to know a lot more than they thought they knew. But what I liked is how she dig into different characters in this town. There's a particular one where is my favorite. This is a Mississippi Mary, and this is about a woman who after 50 years of marriage left her husband, and moved to Italy to be in this really small, shabby looking home with this man that she remarried, younger, but not much younger, but younger. And when her daughter come to visit, you see another mother-daughter bond and mother-daughter issues and things that they are learning to cope with and deal with. And I love the connection that she did with this, and so it was just so, I really enjoyed this one. It's my favorite of the three. And then we have Old William, and this is where you have William, who is her first husband, her ex-husband, the father of her children, and he is now realizing things about his mom and his secrets and things he didn't know. He's a sister he just finding out about, and he wanted to, in retrospect, follow that trail of his roots that he didn't know. So she agreed to go with him on this road trip to where his mom was originally from, and she did that in terms of the connections she still have with him, as well as she's a widow now. Her second husband had passed, and it was a trip that I feel like you learn so much about certain people's relationship with their spouse and things they never asked, questions they always wanted answers to that they never got, and the connection that they have with said person that they had spent 20 years of their life with. And I love this. I love those interaction and those hard-hitting questions. I love that how she saw both herself and him, and things that she's often look at as his fault or his doing, and then realize that she played a part in it. One of the thing that I think was one of the most powerful things when they talk about when do you leave the relationship. Oftentimes we think about the physical leave, when you actually pack your stuff and leave, and not so much the mental part, because there's so many times when you think of it, people are mentally have left that relationship long before they physically moved out or filed a divorce paper. That relationship might have ended a couple of years back, and neither one really knew that that was the case. And I like how that was talked about. Again, go watch my video when I talk about this, because I really went into a little bit more of how I felt about this. The last book I read, Sweet Soft Plenty Rhythm, and this is Laurel Worrell. I think it's a debut. Is it a debut? I think it's a debut. I really thought I was gonna hate this book. I was about 30% in, and I was just like, the hell I'm reading. Like, I literally was just like over it. Like, the man was trash. This is Circus. Circus has a daughter named Coco, and the mother of Coco is still emotionally trapped in a relationship that failed and was never really strong in the first place. Then we have a new girl that he's been seeing, and he got her pregnant. And then you have a truckload of other women who've had experience with him. Good and bad experience with him. Mostly bad. In this, it felt like the women were the problem. The women were the one who were allowing him to get away with the mistreatment and the things that he was doing to them. And then you also think of his daughter Coco, who's a teenager, who is want that love from her father. And what you will see often is that they will seek it in the wrong place and do things for attention, and often are rude and not the most nice characters when you think of young girls like that. And you get that in this. So I went through a period where I didn't like nobody in this. I just kind of felt like, where are we going with this? And then there is that turn that things happened to him, and he had to face the reality of what he had nothing to run from. Essentially, he had to stay in his filth, the filth he created, and he had to figure it out. And then you kind of rooting for some of the women who kind of fought back in a way, but then you question especially Coco's mother and the decision that she made. And I'm not okay with it per se what she did, but I understood that she needed to get away, and it came at a price. So there's still that debate on whether or not I would ever think that any mother should do that. But then you also understand. Then there's that you don't. It's that saying, if you know better, you do better. And you learn Circus, he didn't know better. It's you don't really want to make that excuse for a man, a grown ass man, but you can see he didn't know better. I didn't per se love this book, but I didn't hate it. I love it for the unconventional way that it deals with messy men with emotional scars, and how women became their source of relief, because he had this career that seems to not go in anywhere. This longevity that he has in a business that he has not really gotten anything substantial from. And that kind of failure to believe in your not being able to do what you want, and women became like a tool for him to cope and not connect to, but they were his views. That's somewhat, even there's in this you see that he makes songs for these women. A lot of his songs were based on these women that he's done wrong essentially. But he was very charming. He knew how to woo women, but these women were also not the most stable women. And you see that he knew how to pick them, maybe not intentionally, but he knew how to pick them. I don't hate this book. I have to say that, but I don't love it. It's just one of those books that I feel like if you are a book club person, definitely look into doing this one as a discussion, because I think there's some really interesting discussion that could come from this book. Because you get this certain understanding that you may not agree with, but you get a certain understanding of this trashy man in this book, and the roles women play themselves in this book. But I'm gonna ponder on this one. I feel like I want to ponder some more and perhaps do like a written review on this, because this is a book that needs unpacking. Serious unpacking. If you've read this, let me know how you feel. Yeah, so that is it. Those are my 9 books. You guys know I'm doing a lot of historical thing. I do have that one book that would have been 10, but I didn't finish it because I'm struggling with it. So but it's gonna get finished. It has to be finished in a few days because I want to do my prediction, and then I also started reading some historical fiction as well. Classic for the Victober. So that's gonna get done as well. But once I finish that book, we're gonna talk about this final 6 situation. So alright guys, I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.